We're proud to announce CISO Stories, a new podcast series in partnership with Cybersecurity Collaborative and Cybereason. CISO Stories features the candid perspectives and experiences of frontline senior security executives and dives deep into timely security topics. CISO Stories is hosted by Todd Fitzgerald, VP of Cybersecurity Strategy at Cybersecurity Collaborative, and Sam Curry, Chief Product and Security Officer at Cybereason. Listen weekly as they speak with extraordinary CISOs by visiting securityweekly.com/CSP.
Welcome back to Security and Compliance Weekly. Hey, Security Weekly Unlocked is going to be held in person this December 5th through 7th at the Hilton Lake Buena Vista. Keynotes will be from Alyssa Miller, John Strand, Leslie Carhart, and Dave Kennedy. Visit securityweekly.com/unlocked to register for free and check out our rock star lineup. Also, join us for our next live webcast on Thursday, November 4th, to learn about pragmatic steps to reduce your software supply chain risk. Also, join us the following week on November 11th to learn the key insights and takeaways from the 2021 OWASP Top 10. You can find both by going to securityweekly.com/webcasts to register and save your seat. Also, don't forget to check out our library of on-demand webcasts and technical trainings. You can find those at securityweekly.com/on-demand. All right, let's get back into it. Yeah, it was kind of hard to take a break because we're getting kind of real there. Not only talking about burnout, but talking about the causes of burnout and how, frankly, we cause a lot of the burnout sometimes. Those of us that are perhaps not thinking or not paying attention or not being as aware as we should be of silly stuff that goes on that we have a history of doing and frankly don't pay attention. It's one thing to have like the job be the cause of the burnout. I think it's a whole different level when the atmosphere and the environment that we create within our community, within our workspace, becomes the cause. Joe, I'm gonna flip it over to you. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I definitely want to go back to some of the comments that Kat made. And as a fellow female, as a CEO, I definitely see this. I see it every day. I mean, I wish I could say that I didn't. I do think I probably don't call it out as much as I should. I don't feel like I have the latitude on occasion, but my CTO, Paul Kohler, who has, we've been together for years and years, he is very quick and rapid to point that out on my behalf. And I think having that kind of support is tremendous. I think as a leader, though, and to kind of bring it, back and change, the dynamic a little bit, I think as a leader, it's really difficult to try to look at how that's happening in the environment, not just in the organization, but just with clients, trying to make sure that somebody is keeping an eye on that we're looking out for our people. And when we're talking about burnout, resiliency, trying not just to set up plans for how are we looking at markers for our team, how are we looking at markers for our clients to when are they contributing to that? Just for colleagues, are they having issues? And I think one of the biggest issues for us is how do we set up effective plans to try to notice these kinds of behaviors, these trends, these topics, and for our people, when is this happening sooner? I mean, I don't want to wait until I have team members that are already burned. I don't want to look at working moms. I mean, I'm a working mom, working single mom with 3 kids. I mean, it's very easy and a quick trigger for me to get exhausted. So how am I looking to my team to identify that faster? What kind of a plan am I putting in place? Because we're all busy, we're all running. I mean, Kat said it's Q4. Yeah, you're damn right. We're all exhausted, and we will continue to do that through January and probably until next, quarter, and continuing on for all the 4 quarters. So how are we noticing this faster, putting the right plans? And I think that's the most difficult thing for us is noticing it quicker, putting the plan in place to address it, and figure out, how to stop this from happening for other team members. Because it's definitely, once you see one person tripping over, into that burnout cycle, then all of a sudden there's a whole team that's starting to fall down because their work is shifting to somebody else. So, I mean, that's my next question for everybody here is, I know what we're doing, but what are you looking to do to try to notice that quicker, to put the right plans in place as a leader in the space to try to help that or stop it from happening?
Great points. Especially, when you think about the role of a leader in creating that culture, to do that, right? Being consistent with your actions over time, to build that trust. I think for me, I anchor a lot in one-on-ones. The way that those are facilitated, the open nature of those, it being, my teammates' time, not my time. There's still some leaders out there who are running one-on-ones like it's their time to somehow push an agenda and put finer points on the employees, but really it's the employees' time to end. And I think, again, showing up with empathy, showing up with being present, listening to what the issues are, and look, it's not always appropriate, especially when things veer towards, maybe they need counseling or some professional work, for a leader to provide all those services, right? But I think having an empathy and an ear, talking to other teammates when those situations arises, working on coaching people through that, pushing the organization to build, well-being programs and wellness programs, having a program of, where they have a partner for counseling, mental health counseling, if someone needs to go to it, those are all things I think we can do to, again, inside of an organization, create those cultures. But I think it's important to show up, listen, be present, and address concerns as appropriate. And I don't know that all leaders do that because they're too tied into accomplishing the tasks of the project lists and not heavily invested enough in the team that are delivering those. And my personal opinion, if I can keep a really healthy team, even if it's small, together for 5 to 7 years, well, we will change the culture of an environment. We will drive positive security outcomes. But if I'm not taking care of my team, if I have people coming in and out of an org all the time, well, I'm never really going to accomplish my security goals. And it's a people-driven field, so we got to keep them healthy.
Here. I mean, I think not recognizing those leaders or calling out those leaders that are not supporting those initiatives or that are really detracting from the culture there is a big one. And I think, either having those one-on-ones, I think, not just at the manager level, but if you've got folks that have bad managers, I mean, rooting those guys out and getting the feedback from your employees to make sure that you're really feeding the right culture is critical. I mean, once you've got that, it's a teaspoon of sewage that poisons the whole well. So, or that barrel of wine. So making sure you find it and get it out, I think is really important. So thanks for calling that.
I think that's a key point that you just said there, which is accountability amongst the leadership peer team. And holding each other to that standard and calling it out. It's not done, often enough. And I think to some of the earlier points, it's what got us here is, people ignoring behavior that they shouldn't have and definitely should have called out.
Absolutely.
Hey, we have a Discord channel, Rick, and a question came up during the first segment. I want to throw it out there real quick for you. This all sort of loosely ties together, I think, but the question was asked that if you're feeling burned out in a job situation, is the only solution to seek new employment, seek a new environment, or are there ways to sort of resolve and fix whatever the problem is in your current environment? Or probably where do you stop trying and just pack up your bags?
I think for me, it's you should absolutely try. I would definitely say that the culture of the organization sets a tone for that, and so organizationally, look, if you're not on the same mission and the same page as the organization, it's probably time to leave. That being said, I do think far too often we don't try to change the circumstances around us. We just bail for other circumstances, and maybe it's 2% better in a certain area and 5% worse in another. But we've all done that, right? Kind of going to where the grass is greener. And so I'm a little bit more of a fan of leaning into opportunities, attempting to change the environment around me. And so for me, it's like progress is slow sometimes, but you can see it. And so I guess I would say ultimately it comes down to, do you feel like the environment around you is going to allow you the ability to grow those, again, those well-being services to take care of people around you, or it's not, and it becomes very clear and distinct. And so I would say, yeah, look, if the environment doesn't foster a safe, happy, career counseling, all of the things that we expect as employees, then yeah, it's probably time to leave. But I do think, there's certain circumstances where it's like, let's change the circumstances around us, whether that's getting involved in conferences and pushing out things like, codes of conduct, getting those agreements amongst leadership teams inside of an organization. It's hard work. But I do think it's possible to stay at an organization and change the circumstances as well. It's a longer hack than, running some Python code.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
Can I add something quickly?
You may.
So I will absolutely say, if you've got an employee that's, starting to lean towards that burnout phase, and they come to you and ask, hey, look, I need a break, we would keep that person. I mean, if it's a good employee, if it's a good resource, somebody that's really contributing and they need a break, I mean, there's absolutely something you can do to try to get you back off that ledge. There's so many different ways to, try to reduce the stress level, get, different types of work for them. I mean, there's so many ways to skin that cat. So if the only option for them is, I think I have to go somewhere else, I have to take a different job, I mean, your employer will absolutely work with you if you have that conversation. I mean, we've got so many empty, seats for resources. Again, this is something that if the organization is not willing to work with you, you're absolutely in the wrong spot.
No, I would tend to agree with that. Yeah, and it sounds like the advice ultimately, for people that ask the question, "What if I'm in a toxic environment?" Speak up, and see what happens. See if management tries to change things. Of course, I think I've been around long enough to have seen, if not heard, from other people. But there's a feeling that we're all cogs in a machine, and that everybody collectively can only do so much. Sometimes it's hard to get to the right level of management or the right level of culture change where anybody feels like they can make a difference, which just only contributes to the burnout. I also feel like I've seen, and I know I've had conversations with people I know, women in particular, that talk about the frustrations, the added layer of if you speak up, it's a sign of weakness. There's a perception that you have to try that much harder. You have to be that much more on the ball to sort of succeed and be successful in this community because of all the baggage and we don't call it like this anymore, but even starting out years ago, it was the good old boy network, and just there's so much toxicity within our culture that we don't spend enough time talking about. But I'm glad that we're talking about it now. And it was interesting that our conversation sort of went in the direction of diversity and equality and inclusion, because I was actually in my notes to bring up this second segment. What are organizations to do? Organizations seem to be aware, but what are the practical things to do to try to change culture? I've got a few ideas, but Rick, I want to hear from you first. Frankly, I want to hear from everyone. We all can contribute to this conversation. What are practical things we can do to try to change the culture, bring things to light?
Well, look, I mean, it all starts with oneself, right? And, there's a number of different things that organizations have done and continue to do to increase diversity and inclusion, right? Whether that's ensuring that X number of candidates that are brought in for interviews are in fact meeting those requirements, and managers are bonused based on that. I think one of the interesting learnings for me along the journey has really been around who are you having interview folks? Like, who's your public face to new diverse candidates that are coming in? Candidates, in fact, have shown that they're quite intimidated to meet with people who maybe don't look and feel like them, or they think the organization isn't representative of a group of folks that come from their backgrounds, right? And so I even think the face that you put out to your candidates and then that interview panel becomes hugely important. I think things that we've done moving over as part of VMware, who has a wonderful diversity and inclusion program, is this like the language that we use, the requirements that we ask for in our job applications. I've seen any number of CISOs on LinkedIn talking about this, removing things like 4-year college requirements for certain cyber jobs where you absolutely do not have to have, 4 years of experience. And so I think organizationally you can do that. Look, I think individually, it's certainly incumbent on each of us to have our own personal values and then and drive those, into organizations. So if you look around, as my wife famously said to me when I was doing a keynote and got off a stage, she goes, "You have to fix this. Everybody in the room looks like you." And I really took that to heart. And so I think individually, there's a huge area and component for each of us. I think as part of management staff, there's huge area. And then organizationally, I think there's a number of things that organizations can do. I outlined a few of them to really help, incentivize leaders in the organization to change their behavior, whether they, strictly want to or not, right?
I love what you kind of touched on there, and in particular, like just that role of leadership and what we have to do as leaders. So, for example, I'm also a CISO. So, yeah, I mean, like I try to make sure that my job postings are really explicit about what the actual requirements are versus these weird pedigrees, et cetera. But you also touched on something else that I thought was interesting, with just our roles within our community for supporting, diversity and inclusion, but also supporting things around burnout. And other things we can actually be doing from a community standpoint, but also as a leadership. So, for example, one of the things I like to do, and I'm definitely not perfect at this, but I do advise other people in leadership and InfoSec, is to regularly review the cadence of PTO that your people are taking. Right? Like in my mind, if somebody a professional is in InfoSec, they should be taking some kind of break at least once a quarter, like ideally taking a week off, et cetera. At least for me, I know that for younger professionals, there is kind of like that pressure to like, oh, hey, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to always be on call. I'm always going to be there and be available. But we as leaders have to make it known, and both just, by what we actually speak, but also, our own actions, that it's okay to actually take time away, that it's okay to do something besides security, that it's okay to actually be from different backgrounds, et cetera. So I love that you actually kind of touched on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Time off and like showing people that it's okay, not, giving them a pile of work when they come back, or having the rest of the team go like, why did they get, time off, or making, just like, call me if you need a mental health day. Take the day. I'd rather, sometimes it's stressful inside of some of these meetings, and you get into these weird fights over tech. Are you going to go to O365 or Gmail? And then people will fight to the death over that, right? So I think even as a leader, noticing that behavior before it gets there, and then just allowing for it to be okay. Look, inside the community itself, I can only say that you should be an activist for the things you care about. You should get out there and engage with those communities. So look, encouraging professionals to seek, mental counseling if they need to, or again, take some proactive steps, encouraging people to get into meditation or whatever the things that work for that individual are. And then just being open and honest about it. I found that, even just talking about my own burnout and struggles elicits any number of conversations around that topic. And so I think the more open you are, the more inclusive you are in those conversations, and trying to bring other people into it, we will get to a better spot. It's just it's still an ugly reality of what we're doing today, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think to address the more cultural outside of the workplace, but like the actual industry cultural solutions. I think what you said at the very beginning of the show, like empathy for people that don't look like you and have your life experience and that sort of thing. Because I think that, even with, you were also saying just now, be an advocate for the things you care about. Clearly, I care about things that affect me, but I think that there's a lot more pale and male in our actual industry, and it doesn't affect them, so they don't really care so much. There's some allies, but a lot of people will write it off as, okay, it's just drama. It's just drama because it is the culture and it happens every week, right? Like, so it's you're seeing the same old thing, but nothing's changing, and there's a certain burnout that happens with that activism on a level. I mean, shit, I'm like proof of that right now. You know what I mean? like I speak out about this kind of stuff all the time. And, it really is going to take my friends and peers to care about this issue as well. And I think that all I can do is authentically be me, but it gets tiring after a while. I don't want to, who wants to walk around feeling upset all the time that the industry thinks that you're just a pair of tits? No one wants to walk around like that, or that you don't in some other way don't belong, And so that's like an important thing. And I think that the cure for that is empathy. Like you said at the very beginning of it, just caring about other people's human conditions and how welcome they actually feel. And without being like, because I'll also see a lot of this on Twitter, there's a lot of an overwhelming response too, and a clear signal that people don't care is that they'll say, you're just, I don't want to be politically correct. It's not even about that. It's just including people that are different from you. It's not even like, there's no magic combination of words. It's just empathy and being sincere with it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think for me, it's listening and then actually putting yourself in that person's shoes, not being dismissive of the concerns because you haven't seen them, not being like, well, that doesn't exist because I've never, no, it's like, listen to the person, understand that experience, and then figure out in some way, how do we make that better? Right. And some of these issues, to your point, are massive, and it's going to take all of us rowing in a particular direction. But then I see this all the time. There's so many little things and little ways that each of us could reach out to either say something's not acceptable or, hey, it's okay. It's not okay that the world has created circumstances for you to feel like that, but it's okay that you're going through that. We understand. And, again, I think just empathy, listening, and being present with the person, and then attempting to do something better as a result of whatever the feedback is, whether it's
because again, like the stats on that one incident alone, and it for me, it's been 22 years, something like that, 20 plus years of getting this over and over and over and over and over. And yeah, sure, back in the day, it was a salesperson grabbing on and feeling on my leg. And now today it's like comments or, making a stupid badge or whatever. But I think what really hits is that it is 2021, 3,500 people saw it and 8 people spoke up over 2-3 days. That's crazy to me. We got to do better. Just as a culture, we got to do better. If we actually really care about burnout, we got to do better on that level. And then in your microcosm of different jobs and organizations, there's going to be, of course, the individual, very specific problems for jobs, some oversweeping, but there'll be specific stuff. And yeah, I think you're right, man. Like just listening and just being like, yeah, you know what? Maybe if somebody is getting that kind of BS every day, every week or so or whatever, and being constantly reminded of that experience for 20 some years, maybe the industry should get better,
So I want to throw something out there. Yeah,
and fast. Like in my humble opinion, I'm tired of waiting around to see it. And
yeah,
again,
you and me both, man. Like I thought we were.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah.
So.
But that takes more than just Kat and I screaming and being annoying. I mean, it takes all of us here on the phone, whether it's through Twitter, whether it's, saying something at a conference, whether it's if you see in the office saying something about it, and establishing programs to try to, to help recruit in, stop them from leaving when these things happen. So, it takes all of us to invest time to create programs. I mean, it's money from an organization. It takes all of those things to try to get this to change. And I agree, and quickly, because I'm, overly annoyed at it taking this long too.
I want to share something, and it's really a message to myself as much as anyone, because I know that I struggle with this, and I think it might be a problem in our industry as well. I come from an analyst background in terms of my technical training, and I'm also a guy. So I have this discussion in my household all the time with my wife, and I have 3 daughters, and I have 3 great-granddaughters, and they're not arguing with me yet, but they will. The women in my life want to be heard. They don't want me to necessarily solve the problem and come up with the solution. They just want to be heard. I think that's the empathy part. It is extremely a part of my nature as a male, and also my professional training, especially in the workforce, to hear a problem and want to try to figure out the solution and solve the problem. There's a video that's out on YouTube that's been a joke in our family for years. I'll find the link and put it up on Discord after the show's over, but it's called "It's Not About the Nail." And I don't want to do spoilers, but it sort of sums up my relationship with the women in my life. Hits the nail on the head, shall we say. But I could see it being a problem in this industry that is male dominated, and men have a tendency to be hunter gatherers, problem solvers. We want to fix things. I'm sitting here thinking, I want to fix this, and part of me is saying, no, it's just important to listen and let the people that are expressing themselves be heard, and just kind of be in that moment for a minute. So I know that I have work to do. And I'll try not to solve all the problems. At the same time, we need to solve the problem. So I'm totally flummoxed.
No, you hit on I think a key distinction. One of my peers, Karen, she actually has training as a chaplain, and so I've spent a lot of time on her on this particular topic. Like, what do you do when someone's kind of in a crisis and comes to you? And she's very clear. Like, do not try to solve the issue. Right. Show up with empathy, listen. Again, I think share some of those personal experiences, but it's not always honest to fix. And I happen to be a little bit of the same personality type, see a problem, fix the problem. But I think in this case, it's going to be on us to be supportive and help foster that change, call out when we're seeing stuff like that. But frankly speaking, I think dude solving the problem, it's part of the reasons that we got here as well. So I think we just need to take a step back and listen, and then help where needed.
Well, it's interesting too that you bring up a friend that is a chaplain, because I was thinking in all of this conversation, the trick, the key, and there's been some of this conversation spilling out on Discord, is how do we fix the world type of thing. There's a parable that Jesus told that's referred to commonly as the sheep and the goats. And if you're not familiar with it, paraphrase it very quickly. Cliff notes is there's 2 sets of people at the end times where everybody's being judged, and they're separated, either sheeps and goats. And God says to each group, I was hungry, I was naked, I was in prison, I was sick, I needed help, essentially. And the goats ignored them, and the sheep solved the immediate needs of the people. And how that's usually taught is, don't be a goat, be a sheep. Take care of everybody. What's impressed me about that parable for years is not that the sheep are doing the right things. It's that they're doing it without thinking about it. They're not doing it to be counted. They're not doing it to get a check on their religious compliance checklist. They're doing it just because it's the right thing to do. And that's what I'm striving for. I think that's what we need to go for. It encapsulates empathy. It encapsulates love. It encapsulates paying attention and caring for your common. I used to say common man, common humanity, common person. I don't know what the politically correct phrase is to say that. I told my kids, at some point, it's like you can go really far in life if you simply just pay attention. Keep your eyes open. Maybe we're not solving the problem, but I go to a lot of hacker conferences and other public gatherings, and I look around and try to find the people that I think are on the fringe and not feeling comfortable and not fitting in, not feeling like they're fitting in, and I try to pull them in because I was that person for most of I still am and could be that person. So to me, it's a matter of just keeping your eyes open and paying attention. I know I need to do a better job of that online on social media because I had heard something about this whole badge thing, but I missed it, and so I just I didn't do anything about it. I ignored it, and now I feel like I've been properly chastised by Kat in a good way. Kat, don't worry, but I feel like I need to be more aware, even on the social media world.
No, I don't hate you. I love you, man. It's all love. I promise. It's all love. It's all love. It's just that, I'm one of them friends that I'm like, nah, like just, and if I don't do it, maybe it'll happen in a worse in real life kind of way. You know what I mean? And it's all good and it's all love. I promise. I swear. It's just more like, well, now you know, and maybe the next time something happens online or whatever, and it seems like a hacker drama kind of thing, maybe you'll look at it differently. That's all.
Hey, friends, kick friends in the pants when they need to be kicked in the pants. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we're good, Jeff. I promise. I swear.
So, Rick,
it is topic related. It's a contributing factor to burnout and people staying in the field.
It is. It is.
Yes.
And well, and I guess the not to lose fact of the site that the people that are the oppressors in this case are also feeling the burnout. And I mean it's all connected at some level.
It is.
We're all lashing out in some way, and we're all wounded in some way, and we're all offended in some way. I mean, I'm enraged on a daily basis for all sorts of reasons, and it's exhausting. And sometimes it's for good reasons, and sometimes it's for less than good reasons. Rick, any or anybody, any parting thoughts, any words of advice? I mean, some things up for us, if you would, please.
Be better. I'm going to steal that. Just do better. Like we all know what that means. I had a famous old boss who used to say, my strategic plan is for us to get shit done. And we were like, well, what do you mean by, and he's like, you know what that means. You know what the drivers are, but it really like empowered us to run off and be awesome and do all kinds of awesome things. So I would just say, like, let's go get some shit done in InfoSec. Let's be better and just treat people like, it's very simple. Just treat people like you want to be treated. Listen to them, have some empathy, and really just commiserate with their humanity and their unique perspective. And hopefully, if you add that all up in a few years, in 10 years, whatever the case may be, we've not only solved some of our tribe's issues, but maybe we've got on to drag the rest of society with us. So that's what I want to see happen.
I mean, all together now, be excellent to everyone and party on, dude.
and I'll add this too, right?
Sure.
It's 2021, stupid. It's not the 90s anymore. Grow the F up. Just to tack that on. Not for y'all, but like for anybody listening.
No, but I think grow up is it's one I say a lot too. Like, can we just grow up? We're not 13 anymore. Like,
yeah, grow up, do better. Let's do that.
Right?
Yeah, I have been approached on numerous occasions at conferences, and people whisper at me some variation of, "You're different. You're not like the rest of them." And I whisper back, "It's because I'm a grown up." So yeah, I echo the grown up sentiment. Joe, any parting thoughts from you? You're the only one that hasn't spoken up here.
Yeah, I mean that is my standing mantra: is don't be sorry, be better. I say that routinely. It pops out like a gumball, so it applies here too. I mean, I'm tired of hearing I'm sorry, or at some point it'll get better. I mean, be part of the solution.
Cool. Well, you heard it here on Security and Compliance Weekly. So let's all try to figure out how to be better and be grown-ups and keep your eyes open, and let's work for the positive change, and maybe we'll all be less burned out. Rick, thank you for guiding us through this very frank and somewhat sobering discussion today on burnout. Appreciate it. I feel like I should raise a glass to you, and I feel like I shouldn't at the same time.
No, this was awesome. We talked little of security technology and a lot about people, and I think I'm a huge fan of conversations and keeping them going. So let's just keep this conversation going. I'm not the only one that should be leading it nor participating. So feel free to bring this out in the community, and let's keep it going.
Sounds good. Words to go forth and live by, not just in our community, I think in life. So again, thanks, Rick, for guiding us through that discussion today. That's going to wrap for us this week. Tune in next week. We are scheduled to have Alan Alford, who is one of the hosts of the Cyber Ranch podcast. He'll be joining us to talk about something cyber related. We haven't really figured it out yet. So tune in next week and we'll find out what we're going to talk with Alan about. Until then, be secure, be compliant, keep building those bridges and tearing down silos. We're out.